Former leaders of liberation organizations will share their views on the current political and economic challenges in their respective countries. As the world is battling with a number of challenges, former liberation movements will host the summit this weekend. The ANC says it hopes to have frank discussions with counterparts like SWAPO from Namibia, Frelimo from Mozambique, CCM from Tanzania, ZANU-PF and others. SABC News reporter Khayelihle Khumalo joins us now. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us.
Well, fantastic, Juliet. It's a very important time for these former liberation movements. Juliet, as you know, that when you look at the history of Southern Africa, these are predominantly countries that were frontline states. They were destabilized by the apartheid regime. So a very important time for them to reflect, but also to take stock of the progress and some of the weaknesses during the course of their rule now in their respective countries. But also, as you know, right here in South Africa, when you go through the ANC documents, it's very clear that this is an organization that is rooted with the struggle when it comes to internationalism. So one of the parties here is ZANU-PF, and joining us now is the Director for Information and Publicity. And of course, sir, thank you so much for your time. Maybe just first and foremost, let's look at the significance of this gathering as the organizations are meeting here.
Well, first, as a matter of correction, I am the spokesperson for ZANU-PF.
Apologies.
Yes, I'm the Secretary of Information and Publicity of ZANU-PF. Of course, we are very happy to be here in Johannesburg, in South Africa, as guests of the ANC, the last born of the African continent in the resurgence of Africa from the shackles of imperial, colonial, apartheid and racist control. So our presence in South Africa is really a celebration of Africa's victory over a very dark period of time. We are here as neighbors, we are here as friends, but more important, we are here as soul brothers and sisters, because over a period of time, since the formation of the ANC in 1910, it was actually the pioneer of the African National Liberation Movement, which went up north at a political level, but would return to repay South Africa at a higher level, at a qualitative level, when we became military organizations fighting against entrenched settler colonialism in Zimbabwe and racism, against, of course, earlier on Portuguese imperialism in Angola and Mozambique, and our distant neighbor Guinea-Bissau, PIGC, and then of course the final lap to victory, which saw South Africa and Namibia become part of the African continent. So here we are. This is the journey we have traveled to become soul brothers. So beyond what we are as neighbors and friends, like there's something unique about Southern Africa and the Southern Africa Development Community, to which we now all belong, which is actually a brainchild of the former liberation movements, which are here today. It is that we acquired a political soul which no other region, which no other economic bloc, be it ECOWAS or ASEAN or MESOCU or EU, they don't have a political soul, because they are neighbors and friends primarily and nothing beyond that. We are neighbors and friends, but beyond that, we are soul brothers and sisters, because Tanzania, because Zambia, hosted us as the federal liberation movements, and we shared experiences. We became militant brothers in the training camps of those two countries, and later on in Angola and Mozambique. So we shared a military fraternity, and it has given Southern Africa this political soul which I referred to you, and we are celebrating it today. That's why we in Zimbabwe, we feel at home in South Africa, we feel at home in Namibia, we feel at home in Angola, we feel at home in Tanzania, we feel at home in Zambia, we feel at home in Mozambique.
Maybe to jump in there, sir, it comes at a critical time. Geopolitical tension, the issues of tariffs affecting economic development. I would imagine that's one of the critical areas you will have to look at?
Well, we are excited about that because in terms of geopolitical tensions, we would really wish that the superpower, which is America, can revisit its approach to its relations with South Africa. There is a necessary tension between Washington and Pretoria, which is not conducive to the development of bilateral relations between the two nations, but which is also not conducive to what America's role should be in the resurgence and growth of Africa. So we would really want to appeal to Washington to really look at the relations with South Africa, because this is our regional economic powerhouse, and Africa looks up to South Africa in many more ways than one to be the leader on the continent, and we feel a little bit askance when South Africa is being pushed, or there's an appearance of trying to push South Africa around. But beyond that, we amongst ourselves, we are taking advantage of the endowment of the resources which we have as a region. You know, and we have made strides, and you will be happy to know that Zimbabwe now has got a resurgent, ultra-modern steel industry in Zimbabwe. And we have started exporting high-quality steel to South Africa, which has got a very advanced downstream fabrication industry, South Africa. So a symbiotic relationship where we dovetail our two economies is emerging. But we are also excited that Mozambique, because of its gas deposits, which are the third largest after Russia and Qatar, is becoming part of the world gas bloc, exporting huge quantities of gas, and there are being big investments. And look, you know, we got to give it to Trump. He has just written a check of $4.7 billion to Mozambique to see to it that Cabo Delgado becomes a thermal powerhouse for the world. This is going to give us a chance to piggyback on all this infrastructure to address the issues of energy amongst other countries. And if we then look at the parameter, the geographical parameter of our natural resources in the steel sector, South Africa is number 1 in ferrochrome resource, Zimbabwe is number 3. Ours is higher quality than South Africa. So between the two of us, we can pretty much decide what is the price of ferrochrome on the global market. South Africa is a major exporter of iron ore to China. Zimbabwe has got major resource of iron ore, which we are now exploiting locally in Zimbabwe. Then we have Tanzania, which is now a major player in the nickel sector. So here we are, the two major alloys of steel, ferrochrome and nickel, are all within geographical parameter in Southern Africa. And now with the energy from Mozambique, there's also the Zambezi region.
I'm afraid, sir, we're hopelessly out of time. I would have loved to hear more about that insight. So, Jill, it's a very important time here in South Africa as the country is hosting these former liberation movements. So obviously the issues of economic developments are very key in terms of making sure that these countries now, they're facing new struggle of economic emancipation.
Much for chatting to us about that. That was Khayelihle Khumalo, SABC News reporter.